All right, and we're recording. So today's guest is Phil Young. Phil Young is a Marine Corps veteran. He is an RSO at range safety officer at Top Gun Memphis. He also is an alumni of Rangemaster from if you've ever heard of the Mothership here in Memphis, Tennessee. That's where he trained extensively under the great Tom Givens. And also, he's just a great dude. He's a cool dude to talk to. Phil, thanks a bunch for the honor of coming on today.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. The pleasure's all mine. Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
dude, one thing that really kind of made me like want to talk to you today was like you would come by Top Gun Memphis during some of the times where we would shoot. We had this thing that we stole the idea from Tom Givens, and we call it League Night. And
Mhm.
like it's really kind of like a more practical application of the stuff that we learned in class,
Right.
and basically showing up with the exact gear that you would carry around every day. And we would conduct exercises based on actual scenarios, like real life stuff. Um, and the skill that you showed, Phil, like the skill that you had was so far and above the average student that it just really intrigued me and everybody else that was there. So,
Yeah.
dude, if you could just talk about like some of the shooting you do and how you maintain that skill.
Well, like the practical league night that you mentioned, that being one of them, shooting IDPA competitions, um, and lots and lots of dry practice. Those are probably the three main things to got me to the level that I'm at now. And it all started, for the most part, walking in the door at Rangemasters. Um, it's life changing when I first got here to Tennessee. So yeah.
Man, right on. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about. All right. So we mentioned some classes. We mentioned some dry practice. Like, let's go back to Rangemaster. Like, how soon after the Marine Corps did you go to Rangemaster? Was it right after you got out, or
So I got out in 2012, and this is a story within itself. So I got out in 2012 from Beaufort, South Carolina. But prior to me getting out, December 2012, I'm sorry. But prior to me getting out, I started working part time at Palmetto State Armory there in Beaufort. Um, and my boss back then, he used to get on me a little bit and is like, just because you're a Marine doesn't mean you can shoot. And I was like, whatever, you don't know what you're talking about. So one guy came into the shop and he just came back from Memphis. He's like, I was down there with Range Masters, Tom Gibbons, phenomenal instructor. If you ever in the area, you need to go. So we were in the process of moving to Memphis, and I made it my business to let me find this Range Master place and see what it's about. And when we got here, I needed to get my CCW license, and on the website they offered that class. So signed up, walked in, and that's where it all began. I met a gentleman there, um, Jeremy Younger, and our last names are quite the same, but um, he was the first person I met in Memphis, and he watched me and walked me through that whole journey all the way up till today, and that's where it really started, right there at Range Masters.
what kind of classes do you take there? Did you take the IDC or the levels or what?
So my very first one was the concealed carry class in order to get my permit, but they offered uh, and it's escaping me right now, but let's say basic pistol one or introduction to pistol one, two, three, um, and there's many different levels, but after each one they say, hey, if you sign up now, we'll take off, I don't know, a couple dollars. But it was worth it because in that class that I was in that day, I learned so much about what I wasn't doing right, what I should be doing, different, and the verbiage of what the follow-on class would be is like, man, you can't miss it. You need to just keep going. And I did that all the way up to and through the instructor's course. And I was actually in the very last class um, there, man. And it was, um, I didn't know I was coming, but I was thankful just to be along for that ride and training under, Tom Givens and, all those great instructors there.
Oh man, that sounds like that was truly special.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Wow. I missed Rangemaster by like 3 months.
Wow.
Like I left the Marine Corps and I went years just not getting any training.
Mhm.
And I I finally ended up deciding enough had happened in my life to where, okay, I need to start carrying this thing and I need to know like what I need to know what I'm doing with it.
Yeah.
And by the time I actually got on that train, it was June of 2014 that I finally
Mhm.
decided to, okay, I'm gonna get my permit and I'm gonna start training. And I kept hearing about Rangemaster, but they
Yeah.
closed in April. And I'm like, Dad gum, seriously?
Yeah.
So so when they closed, like what did you do in the meantime? Did you continue to train elsewhere or
So uh, it's kind of escaping me as far as when they closed and if they still had the Sunday night leagues after that. Maybe they had one or two. Um, can't really remember. But soon after that, um, it was mainly all IDPA competitions out at MSSA. Um, and then they opened, and that went along for years. But then they opened. What's the other one?
what was it?
Well,
There was another range. I think it was like Range USA or something like that, or
right. But Range
TWRA.
Range USA was open under that name. Then it closed, and then it
Yeah,
reopened to Top Gun.
yeah,
But I was back and forth from that. Then they brought one Shoot Point Blank,
yeah.
um, which is under another name now also. But um, going there just for the standing in the lane and shooting, working on fundamentals. Um, did that for a while, and then through this whole journey, met with a couple of people and um, know some guys with a nice piece of land out in the middle of nowhere where we can go and be safe and you know um, get some movement done and some training amongst each other and with
Yeah.
that we're able to push each other and kind of polish each other along the way.
Oh man, that's so important too.
Yeah,
Like actually having someone to push you. That's
absolutely.
pretty awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you found us like just for the viewers, right? We kind of laugh at the term like Range USA because I think Memphis is probably the only city that actually has this problem. Um, there was a Range USA, and after Shoot Point Blank opened down the road, I want to say maybe like 18 months later, Range USA had closed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a few months after that, Shoot Point Blank changed their name to Range USA. So whenever folks talk about Range USA, it's like, okay, which one?
Are you talking about that one or this one? Yeah.
so so yeah, but nowadays, like so the old Range USA, it reopened under new management. It became TopGunMemphis, and that's where Phil came to us, and he became a range safety officer, one of the best that we have. Pretty outstanding dude. He's one of those dudes that he'll. It's good to know that he's in there and he has your back, and you know that while he's in there, he's one of those guys that's going to, that dude at the end of the bay that's acting stupid. Yeah, he can approach that guy and not make him feel stupid, but correct him on what he needs to do. So it's pretty awesome. So as an RSO, like tell me a little bit about like the average shift that you would have as an RSO there.
Well, you can. you can expect a lot of things. You can have a normal day where absolutely nothing goes wrong, and then you can have um, something that happens in a split second to where somebody is taking their firearm and turning a little bit too far to the left or a little bit too far to the right, and that little bit of um, I don't want to call it negligence, but it can be perceived as negligence, but that can be life changing for many people, and you got to address it. You have to address it right then and there. Failure to do so it may change somebody else's life, and it may change your life. You know, so you just gotta address it immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. So let's see. So RSO, and then also we talk about like uh one big contributor to the skill that you were able to maintain and cultivate was dry practice.
Absolutely.
Can you tell me a little bit about your dry practice regimen?
Well, here in my room, there's certain targets or target-like items that force me to um, shift from one target to another, near and far, and work on my fundamentals. Um, when the pandemic hit, that was life changing. Um, and there's other events that happened to contribute to the price hike, but prior to those events in the pandemic, I was shooting almost 1,000 rounds every quarter for pistol and rifle. You know, um, but when the price hike happened, you have to practice. There's no substitution for it. Well, there is a substitution. That's dry practice. And so, you know, dry practicing it was. And I've heard, through my journey, a lot of people, um, Spencer Keeper, um, I heard he would do and I'm not a coffee guy, but he calls it a something pour. Like he heats up coffee or the pot pours over the coffee and then does something else with it. But he said that this time frame is like exactly 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever it is. And in that time frame, he's doing nothing but dry practice, nothing but dry practice. And I think this is before he goes to work. So he has a minimum of 5 minutes of dry practicing before he goes to work. And that's, repetition before he walks out the door. And that's important. Um, you have to do it. You have to do it. And it needs to become, muscle memory. Um, so yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and
You have any
within
resources that you use for, for learning how to dry practice more efficiently, like any books or any mentors that you use for dry practice?
I don't have any books or mentors, but I do print out a lot of random targets,
Mm,
um, small circles, large circles, odd shape, you know, um, odd shaped targets, and putting them in different locations, throughout my man cave, and it forces you to change your focus on the target. And is a target a square? Is a target a triangle? Uh, But that's one thing. But then another thing, a couple of friends of mine, what we've done in the past was we get on, um, and for lack of better terms, like a Zoom call. And you got everybody on screen, and everybody's lined up facing our dry practice target. And then one person will say, "All right, we're doing, this many repetitions, and this is what we're focusing on." And it can be just getting your hand on the gun, and we do that 10, 12, reps before we're even moving towards drawing the gun. And then, if somebody says I didn't get my grip right, or you know after I get the gun out of the holster, I'm losing my grip, and then we'll all stop, and we're trying to figure this out. Why aren't you getting a master grip on your gun? And if we have to, we'll go back to our our books, and we're trying to figure it out. What are you doing wrong? Turn sideways. Let us all see you do it, and we'll figure it out together. And I never seen that done anywhere. But the fact that the group of guys that I hang with, we go out of our way to do that. And this was during the pandemic also. Everybody's has to pay these high prices for ammo. Let's just do a dry practice session. Let's watch everybody. And I think that really helps.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that's such a great idea. I wrote it down.
Yeah, yeah.
The Zoom dry fire.
Yeah.
And I think that, there's some dudes that I know right now that I could probably like dry practice with and, get some good feedback. Man, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
Thank you.
did you come up with that? You and your people? Like you and your friends?
I want to say, and I don't want to misquote, but Jeremy Younger definitely had his hand in that. I didn't come up with it, but I was a participant. And it was very interesting. And, we all took away something from it. And even if you can't get on, like, hey, we're going to do this at noon. If you can't get on, that's fine. If you come late, that's fine too. Just, come. And you still get something from it.
Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So one thing that, that I really appreciate Phil for is you have like you've run into enough trouble as far as your own obstacles and development, and you've overcome those. And I think that you have a lot of feedback for like our viewers and our listeners. So for some folks that are struggling and getting to class, like I'm talking like suppose, like for instance, a lot of the listeners that we have here, they may not have ever shot a match or gone to a class.
Mm-hmm.
So if there is a range near them and they're offering classes and they have an instructor, what's the best way to vet that instructor for, like how do I know that I'm going to get my money's worth out of that class? And how do I know that's going to be a good class for me at my current skill level?
That's a good question. And I would say for like the new person to this community or to shooting, and it's going to take a little bit of work. But let's say you can go into the range and say, "Hey, I want to sign up for this class," and they're going to say, or they should say, "This is going to be your instructor." You want to at least get their name and look them up, because usually they'll have like a bio of that person, and it'll say they've for the Memphis area. You can kind of, well, prior to the Mothership, but if they trained under Tom Givens at Rangemasters, then you know that you have a good instructor in front of you. But if you look up what classes they had, you can get online to those instructors who they had and see, what kind of information they have about their training and where they've been. And if they just have NRA instructor and that's it, they may be good enough. And this is not downing anyone who's just the NRA instructor, but they may be good enough to teach you the basics on how to load, maintain the firearm, point it in a safe direction, and some of the fundamentals on how to properly squeeze the trigger and follow up with a shot. Again, nothing bad on them, but if if the class that you're taking is anything more advanced than that, then you want that instructor to have some more training. And like I said, it'll take a little bit of work, but look them up. These ranges have that information available to you, and they shouldn't hesitate to give it to you. So you get that information, you look it up, and do a little bit of research. And it, like I said, it takes time, but in the end, it's worth it because you are you're going into a lifestyle that preserves your life and others. If that makes sense.
That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah,
Absolutely, it does. Because I don't know, I just me personally, when I put on this gun, it's not just for me. I'm
absolutely.
protecting the family that I'm with, and You know what? It was the interview that we had. It was the conversation I had with Sam Middlebrook. He was like, "Hey, that gun that you carry, maybe it's not just to protect you. Maybe it's to protect your wife's husband,
Mhm.
or maybe it's to
Mhm.
protect like the father of your kids." And that
Right.
that hit me, man.
Yeah.
That hit me. Um, yeah. So the let's say I do sign up for a class,
Mhm.
and they say, okay, like this class is in, let's call it 3 weeks. What should I be doing in that 3 weeks in order for me to help me prepare for, like, to set me up for success in that class?
Um, one thing, they have a gear list, depending on what the class is. But let's say you don't have anything. Um, you can start looking at the gear list, seeing what you may need that you don't have, and they provide you for most of the things. But there may be something that they don't provide. You can go ahead and see about getting that purchased, and if it requires a belt, if it requires a holster, you can slowly start purchasing those things. And if this is somebody who's never shot a gun before, then um, it may look a little different. You don't want to go out and start buying a gun or a holster, and you don't have that much knowledge um, on that platform. Some people may not like this, but YouTube has many different I'm not classes or guidance on what you can do up to, um, and even if it's safe storage of the firearm in a box, firearm out the box, safely put in the a lock on the firearm if that's what you need to do, um, or even ask an instructor that's there at the range. Once you signed up, there's people walking around. You ask them, hey, is there an instructor that teaches the class? I'm trying to get some information before my class date. Um, if there's somebody that just came out the range who may look a little proficient, you can, hey, you mind if I ask you a couple questions? And usually people are pretty friendly on, passing that knowledge on. Um, so yeah,
I've done that.
yeah, yeah,
Like, dudes out there burning it down. Yeah,
mhm,
I'll hit them up. Hey, man, like where'd you learn that?
yeah,
What you?
absolutely.
Yeah. So let's see. One thing that really helped me out, I think I went kind of the same route you did. Um, as far as like using matches as a way of practice.
Mhm.
Um, suppose there's a match in my area and I'm thinking about going, but I'm not really exactly sure what I need to bring or how to prepare. Like, what kind of guidance can you provide for the type of shooter that is considering going to their first match but hasn't ever gone to one?
Ooh. Well, for this area, um, for me, is to just go. Even if you don't shoot, you can get a good visual of what's going on. And again, these people that are at these matches, for the most part, they're not better than you. They'll say, hey, we all was here before, and this is what you need to do. You can stand here and watch. As long as you're safe, you have your proper eye protection, ear protection, and this is how it goes. And those people, I mean, they'll definitely walk you through. These are the rules. This is what you can't do. This is what you can do. Um, and just going. And like I said, you don't have to shoot um, that first match. Let it be baby steps, because what you're getting into again is it's it can be life changing, um, for the good, and it could be life changing for the bad. But you want to take it nice and slow, baby steps, all the way up to that first match.
I think I did that my first match.
Yeah.
I found out about the matches at MSSA,
Hmm.
and I didn't know what to expect. So I just kind of showed up and I watched. And the coolest thing about it was watching was free.
Right.
I didn't have to pay in order to watch. So,
Yeah.
and I didn't have to stay the whole time either. I had to be somewhere at noon,
Mhm.
and they were going to be shooting well past noon. So, at about 11:30, I was like, "Hey, I gotta go," but this was awesome.
Yeah.
Um, and that let's see. So, as far as like IDPA or maybe even USPSA, like, do I have to buy any kind of gear in order for me to like? Is there a certain gun or a holster or any kind of rig that I need to buy in order for me to shoot those matches, or what?
So my
Can I just
knowledge, I'm sorry.
can I just show up with what I have, or do I need to buy certain stuff?
So my knowledge for USPSA is not the best. So I want to just stick to IDPA.
Okay.
But gear, you'll definitely need a belt, a pistol belt. Well, that can be debatable, but you want a nice firm belt. You need a I'm gonna say a Kydex style holster. You don't want one of those cloth holsters that'll fold in on itself once the firearm comes out. You need a magazine carrier and a couple magazines, and that's like your basic. I'm sorry, ear and eye protection as well, and that's your basic. Um, if they are requiring you to draw from concealment and you're not that comfortable doing it, usually they will let you continue to shoot without uh, that concealment in order to maintain a safe range. Um, and I think that's pretty good because you're not pushing that person away from this craft, and you're also maintaining a safe environment for everyone. And by doing that, eventually they may build up that confidence and skill level to uh, draw from concealment, and that concealment may even be just a vest around them. It doesn't have to be their work shirt or what they arrived in. Um, so you got those. You also want a good pair of shoes. No open toe sandals or flip flops out there. That's a safety thing as well. Um, yeah, and weather appropriate garments.
Did they? A lot of people, like myself included, like my first match, I was scared to death because I didn't want to feel embarrassed. Like
Right.
I didn't want people to make fun of me or laugh at me. Did they treat you like that? Like, did they make you feel like you weren't welcome? Or
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I shot my first IDPA match in Beaufort, South Carolina, 2012, and I did it with a um, Springfield Armory 1911 Chamberlain 45. At the time, the 45 was the thing,
oh yeah, the
but
Lord's caliber.
yeah, but I didn't do good at all. Um, but no one, picked on me about it because they all knew that was my very first one. It's just, hey, make sure you maintain control of the firearm, keep it in a safe direction, and these are the rules. And then from that, the very next one was a stepping stone and straighten out that learning curve a little bit, and on to the next one, and then moved here, and then it was on to the next one, and that learning curve was slowly getting pushed to becoming straight, but no one ever laughed at me for missing a target that was, 5 yards away. Um, but what most of them do, um, they'd say, "Hey, I seen you did this. Let me ask you why." And then I tell them why I thought that was the right thing to do, and they say, "Well, maybe you should try this or think about it this way." And just that the way that they interact with you, it keeps that person from being pushed away. And that's a really good thing, especially to keep it a nice environment to be interacting in. You don't want to bash somebody who's trying, you know, because the alternative from not going to the um, IDPA to get better is what? Nothing. Or play video games. But that's not helping you. That's not helping you.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's one thing that, that's just, I feel like we need to do more of in the shooting community. We need to make it a lot more welcoming to folks that may not have grown up with guns or may not have, you know, may not have served in the military or law enforcement. So
absolutely. Absolutely.
let's see.
Bring them in with welcoming arms.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Let's see. So we talked about classes, we talked about matches, we talked about like dry practice. Um, let's see here. So as far as like my first we talked about our first time going to a class. We talked about our first time going to a match. Suppose there's a family member that I let me see the best way for me to phrase this question. Yeah, so suppose I have a family member that they're asking me or they're asking you, for instance, hey, I want to go to the range. I just, I don't know what to expect. I'm a little nervous, a little anxious.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, what all, and you guys set a date, for instance, right?
Mm-hmm.
You set a date, like let's say this Saturday. We're gonna meet up at about noon, grab some lunch, and then we'll hit the range. Um, what kind of guidance would you have for that family member or that friend or whatever? And then also, what kind of stuff would you go through with them over at the range? Like, what kind of drills, what kind of shooting would you guys be doing?
Real good question. Um, I'm I'm going to take one of my family members for instance, and this she lives in Texas, so she was like, "Hey, I want to get my concealed carry license, but I never shot a gun before." So I said, "Okay," and I emailed her or text her the weapon safety rules. I was like, "Next time I see you, you need to be able to tell me these without reading them." And I've had other people try to or would like to go to the range with me that has never shot before, and I say, "Here's your homework. Read these and know them." And you don't need to know them verbatim, but at least let me know that you have an understanding of them. But anyway, I sent them to her. She, read them, learned them. Then next time I seen her at the house, we did some dry practice. Um, Firearm, well, of course, it's dry practice, but firearms unloaded, and get familiar with handling the gun. And I'm like, "Hey, I'm gonna hand this to you. At no point in time, I want you to put your finger on the trigger." And I gave it to her, and then I'll have her rack the slide, and I'm watching her finger. Is it moving on the towards the trigger guard? Where's that finger going? Um, Getting that basic understanding of the firearm and the components and how they work. And then once I can see that you have some level of proficiency on doing that, then we can move to the next step. And again, this is one scenario with a family member of mine. But if I took somebody to the range, then it'll be the same thing. Um, I want to see you have some proficiency, and not a high level of proficiency, but do this. I'm gonna tell you to do this. I want you to do that. And if at any time I tell you, "Whoa, stop," I want to see that person stop. And I also want to see their maturity level. If I tell you to stop and it comes off as if me being, really forward with what I'm saying, even if I yell at you, I don't want your attitude to overcome the safety aspect of it. And if you can maintain that, like, "Hey, I just yelled at you and told you to stop." If you can maintain still wanting to go forward, then you have a good student. Um, if they can respect you, respect the firearm, you're on the right track. You're on the right track, and that's the basic right there. Your safety rules and being able to be a good listener and a good student. There.
Man, that's outstanding, dude. Like, I'm taking notes here because this is some of the stuff that I want to take my family members through. Like the next time someone comes up to me and says, "Hey, I've never shot a gun before. Like these are really good tips.
Yeah.
Um, so let's see. We'll cover one more topic before we get out of here. There's there's a question of how good do I need to be in order for me to survive a defensive encounter? Like, is there a certain, I don't know, standard or drill, or like how do I know that I'm good enough with this handgun for me to protect myself and my family?
That's a good question. That's a good question. um, Unfortunately, I don't think there is a definite answer to that because you won't find out how good you are to do that in real life until it's that time, if that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Can you speak a little bit more about that, or
Yeah.
like,
So, you go to the range, a one-way range, and you're shooting on paper targets. You're just punching holes in this target. And what is considered a good group? And most people don't know until you've done this for a significant amount of time. I would say having a fist size group in a vital part of the body, preferably center mass on your chest. Your chest is the widest part of your body. And this is me trying to explain it to somebody who's somewhat new to it. But having a fist size group, center mass is good enough. Um, but in a defensive encounter, that target is not going to be 5 or 7 yards away, or 3 to 5, 7 yards away, and it may not be square to you. They may be, bladed a little bit, which changes the whole dynamic of the situation. And one thing that I really liked about the practical league that you ran is that you have other targets around you. Um, they could be innocent bystanders. And all that is taken into consideration because you're accountable for every single round that comes out of that firearm. Um, and it's kind of scary because, again, you won't know if you're good enough until it's that time. And that may not be the right answer, but up until then, I think we all need to be training for that encounter. Um, and it was a saying, and I want to say I heard this from Tom Gibbons to his instructors. Stop telling your students if this encounter happens, because they'll have it in their mind that there's a possibility that it might not happen. Uh, Tell them when this happens, when this encounter happens. Um, and just knowing that is the life that we live in, it keeps me on my toes, and it keeps me training. Um, excuse me. It keeps me pushing forward on having that ability to be able to survive that defensive encounter. And I know I kind of bounced around that answer a little bit, but I think it's all needed for that this topic.
yeah, like that was an incredibly thoughtful answer. I think
Yeah,
it's probably one of the more honest answers that I've really heard about that topic.
yeah,
Because you're not really going to know until you get there.
right.
So
And I want to dive a little bit more into it.
yeah,
The friend of mine, um, Fam, someone asked him, why did you pay so much for that gun, for that pistol? And his answer was, because the value of my life is worth more than this pistol. My life is worth way more than this pistol. So with this pistol that I purchased, it's going to help me, preserve my life. And I was like, man, that makes sense. That makes a whole lot of sense. And so going into or taking training courses, as long as you have a vetted, good instructor that's going to give you good knowledge, my life is worth the price of that course. My life is worth the price of going to the practical league night one day out of the week or month, sacrificing a little bit of time away from my family in order to preserve, their lives and my own, or somebody else that I love, or somebody to my left and right. And I think that says a lot about a person. People that are going out here, doing training and investing in these things, because that firearm that we carry is just like an insurance card. You hope you never need it, but when you do need it, you want it, and you need to have some sort of level of proficiency in order to survive this defensive encounter. And paying for classes is a must. Investing in a decent firearm is a must. And along with that, you have your medical needs as well, and that requires training as well. And it's all worth it. It's all worth it. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Tell you what, Phil, you've given us a lot to think about. Um, yeah, this is really awesome, man. This is good stuff. Phil, where can if folks want to hang out with you, or if they want to shoot with you, or if they have questions for you, where can they reach you?
I'm on the Facebook here and there by my name, uh, Philip Young. Suffix is the third. I'm on Instagram. Believe it's Young Thou, YOUNGTHOU, and also Young Tactics. Um, I've created that Young Tactics, trying to deliver some content on my life and how I everyday carry some of the shooting that I do. And I think that'll be the best way for someone to reach me. Um, and and again, I know I'm bouncing around, but with the Young Tactics page, sometimes I'll show my EDC and what I wear on a daily basis, and it will be like a button-up shirt, some slacks, and dress shoes. And the premise behind it is, don't say you can't conceal carry because of what you wear. You can make it work, but it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle, and I'm sure some people will be amazed of how much we put on a daily basis, you know, to maneuver through life. So yeah, those are my socials.
Man, good stuff. So, Phil, I just want to say thanks a bunch for coming on. I really do appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was really good.
And folks, if you're listening or if you're watching, uh, I want to let you know that look, there's a lot of places where you could have spent your time, and I'm glad you're spending it here with us. I really do appreciate it. Thank you. Welcome to Memphis.